Do you know that you can achieve a lot with less work? Do you know that a lot of big companies like Coca-cola, Apple, and Microsoft achieved all these with minimal work and effort? To go brief into this, we will be summarizing a book called Living the 80-20 Way by Richard Koch. Imagine earning more money and achieving greater results by working just 2 days a week. Envision discovering an easy fix for your issues that will enable you to support yourself, earn a living, achieve success, and even experience happiness and fulfillment. It all seems too good to be true, don't you think? But it's not. What if I told you that by adopting the 80-20 approach, you could change the course of your life? By doing less, you may truly expect a change in your life when you implement the 80-20 technique. Everyone who is willing to make a change can apply the 80-20 approach, which is based on the 80-20 philosophy meant for business readers. Well, without beating around the bushes, let's get into the chapters of this book. Chapter 1. You can accomplish more by working less. When you stop to think about it, all civilization and progress involve achieving more with less. For instance, humans transitioned from a system of hunting and gathering to agricultural farming approximately 8,000 years ago, during which they tamed animals and farmed land. Before a revolution in agriculture gave rise to machines that increased the output. Back then, 98% of the laboring population was employed in farmlands, but today, the agricultural sector employs only 2 to 3% of the labor force. However, compared to those centuries before, we generate a lot more food today. In other words, with less, we're producing more. Similarly, just 40 years ago, computers were big, heavy, and costly to manufacture. These days, computers are becoming quicker, smaller, and even more reasonably priced. We're getting better results with less money. This is how the 80-20 rule is applied. Regretfully, as a community, we have not implemented this rule in either our private or social lives. Instead, we think that we must work ourselves and our careers to the point where we are too busy to enjoy the things we love or spend time with our loved ones. So, how can we incorporate the 80-20 rule into our daily routines? One way to start a rule like this could be to just stop and ask yourself, how can I get more with less? Which few areas should I focus on in order to maximize the benefits of this project? This is where personal time management skills will unlock the power of the 80-20 principle. When you understand that there is never too little time, you begin to position yourself to be as productive as possible. For instance, you can finish things that would normally take days, weeks, or even months in a matter of hours when you're in the zone. For example, let's say you work for yourself and have 2 days to complete a project that would often take a week. If you give yourself a full week, you may find yourself putting off tasks and wasting time on unproductive ones. If you just spend 2 days a week on your most valued activity, it will give you 160% of the value it used to produce in 5 days, giving you 3 days to engage in other activities. Chapter 2. The 80-20th Step Process. The 80-20 concept can be applied in 3 simple ways to significantly improve your life. Just like with a vacation, you must first decide on a location. What direction do you want to go with the 80-20th principle? Your final destination should reflect your true passions. Therefore, begin by thinking about the aspect of your life that you value most. To see this in action, we might take a look at Steve, who owns a restaurant in Cape Town, South Africa. Steve decided to focus on his career and personal objectives after deciding to live in the year with the 80-20 rule. His main goals are to become a teacher, work on his rock music, and start a business centered around hospitality. Steve knew exactly where he wanted to go, so the next step was to determine the most efficient route. Choosing a route may seem overwhelming at first because there are several ways to go to the same location. It's important to figure out the quickest way to get there. The Koch's rule of thumb states that the best 80-20 road is the one that is most enjoyable and least problematic. Maybe becoming a successful salesperson is your objective. There are several ways to accomplish this, which includes taking classes, finding a mentor, getting an entry-level job, and more. Finding a decent approach that will yield the best outcomes is your duty. Therefore, instead of going that route if you aren't good in school, get a mentor. When you've decided on a destination and a practical path, it's time to get going. Make the most of every chance you have, and once you do, things will start to change in your life. The author suggests that you figure out how to change your life so that you may achieve more with less stress and effort. After that, the universe will work to bring you great luck. Once you've identified and selected the true parts of yourself and made them work naturally, you'll be unique, function smoothly and effortlessly. In Chapter 3, the book talks about locating your happiness and achievement islands. When we think about life, we frequently concentrate on the concept of time. We don't want to waste it. More significantly, we never feel as though we have enough of it since we can never get it back. The worst part is, why does it feel like time moves more slowly when we're bored or working than when we're enjoying ourselves? But what if we were able to exchange them? By prolonging the positive moments and cutting the bad ones short, we may transform our life. So, how does one go about doing this? Find out where the islands of happiness are. Happiness islands are the brief periods of time when we are at our happiest. So think about the last time you were truly happy, and then think about all the other times. What do all these moments have in common? Were you with a specific person, doing a specific activity, or in a specific place? Which themes come up again and again? The next stage is to figure out how to multiply the happiness island's duration. Suppose you spend 20% of your time in happiness islands. How can that 20% increase to 40% or 80%? If 80% of your time only contributes 20% to your pleasure, what activities can you give up to free up more time for the things that make you happy? There are many things we do that don't make us happy. According to studies of TV watchers, not many people are happy even after they spend hours in front of the screen. In actuality, they are suffering from mild depression. Of course, if watching television brings you joy, you should keep doing it. If it doesn't, stop it. Finding your achievement islands is the next stage. You are most creative or productive during these periods. Determine the previous instances in which you were most productive, or when you accomplished more in a short period of time and benefited others or yourself. You might be most productive during a given task when working with a specific person at a specific time or in a specific location. After you've located these islands, you can start concentrating on your happiness and your ability to be productive. For instance, British civil service bureaucrat Richard Adams discovered that telling stories to his daughters made him happy. As a result, he started recording these tales in his spare time. He chose to devote all of his attention to his happiness and achievement islands, which led to these stories finally becoming best-selling novels. Everyone has the same number of hours in a day, so start making the most of them by being as joyful and productive as you can. Chapter 4. The 80-20 Principle for Money. 20% of the world's population owns 80% of the world's money. Why is that the case? Of course, it's compound interest. Even Albert Einstein acknowledged compound interest as the most powerful force in the universe. The 80-20 concept allows the wealthiest people in the world to invest their money and let compound interest handle the rest. Even small financial investments can yield incredible returns. These days, earning money is a trap. Many of us become so focused on earning money that we fail to pause and enjoy the fruits of our labor. That is why it's time to understand how to apply the 80-20 concept to your finances and take guidance from the wealthy. First, where do you want to take your financial journey? Here's the time to get specific. Saying that you wish to be worry-free about money is not enough. Instead, define what that means to you. Does that mean you wish to have enough to live on for 6 months, a year, or more? Do you wish to have enough money to buy your dream home? Become a millionaire? The destination is up to you. The next step is to determine your financial path. Your path will probably require investing and saving. If you want to invest, then you need to have some money in your savings first. Some people may think saving is impossible, but it's not. Consider having 10% of your income automatically transferred into a savings account before you even have a chance to spend it. Remember, the earlier you start, the longer the time period you're allowing for compound interest to work its magic. Let's take a look at Steve and Helen, who used the 80-20 principle to buy a $60,000 apartment. Together, their annual income was $78,000 and they lived paycheck to paycheck, making it seemingly impossible to save money. Instead, they automatically transferred 10% of their paychecks into a savings account. Steve and Helen set a destination found around and took action. In the end, they reached their goal, and after 6 years, the couple saved $66,000. Not only were they able to buy the apartment, but they were also able to fix some repairs. Chapter 5. The 80-20 Principle for Relationships. Think about the relationships in your life. In what area are they thriving? More importantly, how could they improve? In today's modern world, we find it increasingly difficult to build strong relationships. We're too busy to give the time and effort that relationships need to be successful families, or even outsourcing activities to others that used to be a basic part of family relationship. We're getting more babysitters, picking up takeout instead of cooking, hiring maids instead of cleaning, and putting our elderly parents into homes. Luckily, the 80-20 principle can help you in your personal relationships too. 80% of our relationship satisfaction is generated by 20% or fewer of our relationships. In other words, less than 20% of your friends will contribute to 80% of the meaning and value that you derive from friendships. Therefore, we need to concentrate on the few relationships that matter to us, especially those with our romantic partners. In fact, romantic relationships are proven to be the most important ones in our lives. One study showed that people who scored in the top percentile for happiness were those involved in a romantic relationship. While 40% of married Americans say they're extremely happy, only 23% of unmarried Americans can say the same. Of course, marriage doesn't automatically mean happiness. You must have a strong relationship that fosters and supports your happiness. This is when you should focus on your 80-20 destination. What do you want from your personal relationships? What values are important to you? Once you decide your destination, you can work with your partner to find a route that works. When it comes to deciding your route, think about how you can build a better relationship for less time and less effort. For example, when Steve met Helen, he sought to make her happy and realized that she wanted him to simply be home on time and be a source of support. Of course, she also loves surprises. By focusing on these routes, Steve identified 3 important things he could do to take action to make Helen happy. Therefore, it's important to sit down with your partner and communicate a productive way to build a strong foundation for your relationship. Chapter 6. The 80-20 Principle of Simple Life. In today's modern world, we have a twisted sense of happiness. Many people think they need wealth to buy the things they assume will bring them happiness. For example, advertising firms want to keep consumers addicted to their job so they can keep purchasing the never-ending range of new and better products. Take a time to pause and reflect in order to break this thought pattern. What is really necessary for your happiness? Most likely, it's far less than you believe. For example, the Greek philosopher Epicurus believed that the only important elements of a decent life are freedom, thought, clothing, food, and shelter. In other words, similar to the 80-20 rule, less is more. Epicurus lived a simple life in a community with 7 friends to put this concept into practice. They didn't worry about making money to purchase material goods because they were dependent on the land for their food. Instead, they spent their time writing books or sharing ideas. Maybe it's time to incorporate Epicurus' ideas into your own life. Once more, concentrate on your 80-20 goal and consider what a good life means to you. Begin by writing a description of your ideal life. Think about the items that you have that provide you with happiness. What do you genuinely need? How often do you use the items you currently own? Why are you putting so much effort into purchasing more items that you will never use? Next, identify your paths. Find options that are both similar and better. Eliminate the things in your life that cause worry and add little value. Think about how you can reduce the clutter in your own life, or how you can spend happiness in simple things. Finally, it's time to take action. Decide on 3 immediate steps you can take to move towards your destination and ideal life. Let's take a look at a successful account executive in advertising. She did a good job at her job, but she was always stressed out and weary of being miserable, so she quit and moved from a large apartment to a little studio. Even though her parents disapproved of her decision to leave her stable, well-paying job to pursue a career in painting, she chose to disregard the criticism and pursue her passion. She eventually started making good money selling her paintings. Ultimately, she recognized where she was going and took the required actions to get there. She chose to live a simpler life and ultimately found success and happiness. Finally, according to the 80-20 principle, just 20% of our actions result in 80% of what we desire. Sadly, a lot of us think the opposite is true. We think that we will eventually discover happiness if we put forth enough effort. However, our level of wealth or the things we buy shouldn't determine our level of happiness. Rather, pleasure is the result of spending time doing what brings us joy. We can use the 3-80-20 principles. Choose a destination, identify the best paths, and take action to genuinely find happiness. These actions can be used to all areas of our lives, including our financial and relationship with others. You will find success and satisfaction by doing less if you put the 80-20 concept into practice and create a strategy.